retaliatory sense. New Zealand has we're one of the lowest no tariff countries in the world.
Well, that's what I heard in the lead up, but on his chart that's been reposted on X, so it must be true, he says that we impose 20% tariffs on...
I'd struggle to figure out how they could do that. I mean, unless they're including GST and something else. But of course, GST is not a tariff because it applies to everything. So it applies to a New Zealand manufactured good as equally as it applies to an imported one.
Like
so
ground zero for free trade.
We totally are. I mean, to some extent, you could say that over the last 40 years, we've given up more than we've gained to some extent, and we may, some other countries in free trade negotiations actually held out more than New Zealand did in order to have things to trade with, whereas we were sort of like, well, we're just going to give everyone tariff-free access, and now how about you reciprocate? And so I think they haven't really got a justification of saying it's retaliatory because US exporters trying to get into New Zealand find no barriers at all, really.
Yeah, it's all very odd, isn't it? I mean, I doubt you could have managed it's just sitting back and waiting, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, I think he's going to say.
I mean, if you look at the Australian government has over the last 20 years had a much, much closer government-to-government relationship across successive governments with the Americans. And if they can't get any concessions on it, I don't think New Zealand was going to be able to get any concessions on it. So,
no, in fact, they got named and shamed.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Now, so many questions on this particular one. Ask Chris Hipkins if he'll rule out working with the Te Pāti Māori who can't even obey the rules of Parliament, the Greens who want to abolish the police. Morena says, Carmel, I have a question for Chris. Given the spate of scandals besetting the Greens and Te Pāti Māori, does he still see them as suitable coalition partners? Does he concede that both of these parties have moved so far from centre they'll realistically only secure votes from the fringes of society? There's many more along those lines. Man, I bet you're glad you're not in government right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think this is actually going to get harder and harder in the MMP environment that we've got at the moment, because the reality is, barring one election, which was the COVID election in 2020, no government has ever ended up with a majority under MMP. So you do end up having to have working relationships with other parties. I think... and I've said that before the election we'll set out, these are the parties we think we can work with, these are the areas we have a policy in common, but also I think we've got to set out some bottom lines as well. So you've got to be able to willing to say, look, that's an area that they might be promoting, but we're not willing to do it. And if I have a criticism of Christopher Luxon and the current government, is I think he let ACT and New Zealand First get too much out of the coalition negotiations when he should have said, look, we are the biggest party here. National got, 37% of the vote, and ACT got 8%, and yet ACT seemed to have a disproportionate influence over the government. And I do think in MMP people expect you to compromise and work together, but that doesn't mean that you should give away everything to parties that actually only attract quite a minority of support. So that's my starting point for this kind of discussion about Te Pāti Māori and the Greens. There are areas which I strongly disagree with them on. I totally disagreed with Tamitha Paul's comments on the police.
Interestingly, 48 hours later, they're going to the police because of the threats to one of their MPs.
Yeah, so I mean, I disagreed with them on that. I do think the communities feel safer when they have a visible police presence, on the beat. I think, I've spoken to a lot of those small retail businesses who have been the victims of retail crime. And people shouldn't feel unsafe standing behind their shop counter, and having police walking up and down the street actually helps them. It makes them feel safer, and that is a good thing.
So that's a national policy you would maintain?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something that as Minister of Police, I talk to the police about.
You were Minister of everything. There were so many ministers of police.
I was only Minister of Police for about 6 months because then I became Prime Minister, but I talked to them about increasing their visible police presence. It's a tricky zone, though, because police determine that, not us. The police commissioner has independence from ministers, and
technically, but we've seen changes in direction.
I think the National Party's, Mark Mitchell's probably leaned more heavily into that police operational area than I did.
Well, thank heavens.
But I don't disagree with it. I mean, I think that while police should be independent, I think they also have a responsibility to be visible. I think, and also for those who say, there are communities in New Zealand who are suspicious of the police. I get that, but actually, police, in my view, community policing is one of the ways you overcome that.
Yeah.
Because when you've got the police out there engaging with people, they have less reason to be be suspicious of them.
Exactly, and they're representative of communities. There's been a huge emphasis over, I'd say, the last 2 decades to have the police represent the communities they serve.
In that last couple of years we were in government, I attended maybe 6 or 7 police graduation ceremonies, new police joining the beat. And man, I attended them and thought, this is so different to what it must have looked like 30 years ago. Because those graduation ceremonies, the police coming onto the beat genuinely reflect the communities that they serve. There's more women, it's no longer all, 6 foot high buff white guys. It's a very broad cross section of New Zealand who are on the front lines of policing. And I think, again, they're not there yet. It's not perfect yet. The police have still got work to do. But man, it's a different organisation to what it would have been 20 or 30 years ago.
I'd say 30 odd years ago.
Yeah.
We have a question from Andy. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Morning.
Do you think we should expel the Russian ambassador?
Thanks, Andy. That's a question that I get asked quite a bit. No, I don't. Not because I endorse Russia. I strongly disagree with Russia, but because I think that the solution here is always going to involve talking. It's always going to involve some diplomacy. And I think once you expel the ambassador, you have no channel of communication left at that point. So I think we need to be able to convey to the Kremlin that we strongly disagree with what they're doing. And if we expelled the ambassador, we wouldn't be able to do that.
There we go. Thank you very much. We'll take a break. Look forward to your questions for the Leader of the Opposition, who'll be in studio for the next 45 minutes. Newstalk ZB, it is 10:15.
Need a break from spreadsheets? Here's the formula for news and analysis. Tune into your favourite station on iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio. The world is yours.
Want to go somewhere exotic like Japan, China, Borneo or Egypt? Let the experts at Wendy Woo Tours take care of everything on one of their unique, fully inclusive tours to more than 40 countries around the world.
The world is yours.
Your partner flies for free on your next adventure at wendywoodtours.co.nz or see your local travel professional. T's and C's apply.
The world is yours. Wendy Woo Tours.
Discover what's behind the curtain with Redgrave's Home Fabrics.
A consultation with one of our skilled designers is completely different to what you get with anyone else. They are sharing with you their love and passion for textiles and interior design. They're not treating it like a commodity. They are sharing their art and looking to provide the ultimate finishing details to your home.
Discover the Redgrave's Home Fabrics difference for yourself. Visit redgraves.co.nz.
Bowden Barrett, famed for reading the game, seeing the plays and predicting the future. Right, Bodie?
If you say so.
So when he reads his power bill and sees the cost, what does he predict?
Power prices aren't going to stop going up, obviously.
And what's the play, Bodie?
Solar power with Lightforce Solar, obviously.
Really?
That's obvious.
Wow, you really can see the future.
Especially if it's obvious.
Visit lightforce.co.nz today. Lightforce Solar. The future is obvious.
Attention comfort seekers, now's your chance to save big with the first ever Lazy Boy flash sale. Save 30 to 50% off all Lazy Boy furniture for a limited time only. Get at least 30% off all world-class recliners, stylish sofas and modulars, powered lift chairs and more. Plus a wide selection of products in stock now. Don't miss out, flash sale must end Sunday. Shop 30 to 50% off all Lazy Boy furniture at your nearest Lazy Boy store or online. Lazy Boy, long live the lazy.
Hi, Brendan here from Nap Adjustable. If you're looking for a new bed, then don't miss the opportunity to try one of our adjustable beds. We have a relaxing showroom where you can feel how an adjustable bed can help you. No pressure. In fact, nothing at all like the pushy sales experience you will find at a busy show. Come to 59 Apollo Drive or find us at napp.co.nz.
Factual. The universities clearly aren't listening or changing their policies as a result. The only way that would really happen is if National hit the Trump button and threatened funding. Nothing hurts quite like a whack in the wallet.
Tollack on the school lunches, the question who's responsible for school lunches, it actually turns out to be parents. Who would have thought? Perhaps, disturbingly, if I ask you whose job is it to give your kid lunch and a third of this nation goes, oh, that'll be the government, we're buggered.
Every view from every angle. Newstalk ZB.
Newstalk ZB 1018. People feel I haven't done my job. They're saying, what's the answer? Would you work with Te Pāti Māori or not?
Oh, I just said I haven't made a decision on that, but we will.
I thought you said that.
Yeah, we haven't made a decision on that, but we will before the election. So people will know that before the election.
Are they going to have to lift their game a bit?
Oh, I think all of the parties in Parliament, frankly, need to lift their game in terms of conduct at the moment. I think New Zealand politics, like politics around the world, is in a pretty ugly space. I think everybody needs to grow up, stop shouting at each other quite so much, and try and find some reasonable common ground.
Mind you, if Parliament's supposed to be reflective of the community, like the police, then that's what we're doing. We're shouting at each other without listening.
Yeah, and I actually think there's a lot of people who are getting a bit tired, very weary of that. And I think it is time for us politicians to show some leadership there and say, look, you can actually have a civilised conversation with someone who you disagree with.
Yeah.
And
well, you find that in the valedictory speeches.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden you find out that James Shaw's great mate was Todd Muller.
Yeah.
It's...
Well, I saw Todd Muller yesterday, a day before yesterday, him and I used to get on like a house on fire. We would send text messages across the debating chamber from each other after ripping into each other in the debating chamber, know, and he's someone I respect enormously, and I really respect what he did too, by the way. I thought that was incredibly brave, the way he sort of stood up and spoke about, what had happened to him and how he felt about it. And I told him that at the time, and I've told him that ever since as well. You can do that. You can actually have a really good and passionate argument with someone and then still go and talk about something completely different later on and still be friends with them.
That's what it used to be like, didn't it? Oh my God. Anthony, you be the spokesperson for the many people who have sent in texts. This one issue drives me balmy. Off you go.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Given the tragic state of the Meals in Schools program, lateness, low quality and unappetizing, and the news of catering companies folding, what is the definition of a woman?
What is it? I think school lunches was what you were asking about. And I've got so many texts on that. The bloody school lunches. Do you regret bringing this in the first place?
No, I don't.
And not providing secure funding for it for the future?
No, I mean, we'd said that we were going to. We had indicated in the election manifesto how we were going to baseline the funding for the school lunches program. But the thing about it is it needs to be done. I just think the mass-produced model's flawed because you remove the flexibility, you remove the localness of it, you remove the fresh nature of it, and we had a lot of local catering companies, the local cafe, small businesses doing lunches, and it meant that if there were problems, the school could get on the phone, talk to someone, and it could be sorted out pretty quickly. I saw the polls, RNZ did that poll yesterday, which is, who's responsible for lunches, and in the vast majority of cases, the public are right. It is a parent's responsibility to produce a lunch for their kids. I do my kids' lunchbox every morning, get out of bed and do that and try, battle with the trying to make it interesting for them so that they're actually going to eat it and it's not just going to come home and go in the bin at the end of the day. So, I think then the vast majority of parents do that. But we've got to recognise that there are kids showing up in schools who don't have lunch. And we can, at a point of principle, say, well, you can go hungry all day. Who suffers from that? It's the kids, it's not the parents. So I think feeding those kids so that they can actually focus on their education is the right thing to do.
But when did the Ministry of Health hijack it and say this is the one opportunity we get to get calories and food into kids? Because I think, excuse me, when you started off, you thought it was going to be, like Christopher Luxon said, a Marmite sandwich and an apple and a yoghurt. All of a sudden it becomes the one main meal of the day. And I don't think people thought that's what they were buying into. When I agreed to a school lunch and thought it was a great idea, that's what I thought. They'd get a school lunch, not suddenly have it, we're going to introduce vegetables and chickpeas and the children are going to... it suddenly became bigger than Ben-Hur.
I think for me, the key test was, are kids eating it?
And no, they weren't.
No, they were.
No, there was a hell of a lot of wastage long before National came along.
So it was about 6%, it was recorded. And it started higher, but they got it down. And one of the ways they got it down was they looked at, well, what's the food the kids are eating and what's the food that they're not eating? And stop doing the stuff that they're not eating and do more of the stuff that they are eating. So I remember visiting a primary school out in Cannons Creek in Porirua, where they had this attendance problem with the kids on a Friday, but they worked out the kids' favourite school lunch was lasagna and garlic bread. So they started surfing lasagna and garlic bread every Friday, and suddenly all the kids started showing up to school on a Friday. So I think that those are the sorts of bits of flexibility that we've lost from the lunches program, where there are spin-off benefits, to the school in terms of attendance.
Well, do you think it should be a lunch or the one main meal of the day? And also, what happens during school holidays?
It was a mix. Some days kids would get bread rolls and sandwiches, and other days they'd get a hot meal. Ultimately, I think you want to do what's most cost effective. Now, what David Seymour's showing is that there's probably you could scrape a margin out of it. Maybe it's not the $7 or nearly $8 a day. Maybe it's more like $6 a day. But I think $3 a day is too low. So I think there might be somewhere we can find in the middle where you can bring the cost down by moving to simpler lunches and simpler menus and whatever. But I think they've gone too far to the other extreme.
But again, what happens during the school holidays? If it's essential that these kids are fed, why then is it not open during the school holidays so they do get fed, if it's that important to feed them?
Well, if you talk to the community organisations like the food banks and stuff, they'll say they end up picking up a lot of the slack over the school holidays, sadly.
Yeah. So that means the parents have to make the lunches if they go to the food bank.
Well, there are other community initiatives, where they're preparing meals. Some of the churches, for example, do lunch programs and so on. And it's sad that we're in this situation and that's where society has got to. And of course, we've got to deal with that. But in the short term, I'd also just want kids to have food so that they can focus on learning.
Newstalk ZB 1024.
Hi, Heather Kensley, Investment Manager at Southern Cross Partners Loans and Investments. Talk to us for interest rates from 7% per annum. Our self-service portal offers full transparency. Be involved and watch your investments grow. Funds are secured by First Mortgage over New Zealand property with strong equity. Visit southern-cross-partners.co.nz. Kiwis helping Kiwis for over 25 years.
Southern Cross Partners Limited is licensed to provide peer-to-peer lending services under the Financial Markets Conduct Act 2013.
With winter coming, 1 in 4 New Zealand adults can't afford to forget about COVID-19. Are you aged 65 or over, or 50 plus of Māori or Pacifica ethnicity, or have either diabetes, heart disease, or a respiratory condition? If this sounds like you and you've just tested positive for COVID, it's important to know if you're eligible for free antiviral treatment. Don't wait. Go and call your GP or pharmacist now, or to learn more, visit knowandgo.co.nz. Prescription medicine. Medicines have risks and benefits. Your healthcare provider can advise if this medicine is right for you. Normal consultation fees may apply. Pfizer New Zealand Limited, Auckland.
Hey, this is not a test. This is rock and roll. I'm sorry, is it too early to be this loud? No, sir. If you're out there sweating in the concrete jungle, I feel your pain. I spent years cruising from the Delta to the DMZ because I'm a 1969 Willys M38, but you can call me Jeep. But in the land of the long white cloud, I know Star Insure's on my side. That's right. Escape the ordinary with the insurance your classic car would choose. Get a quote now from starinsure.co.nz. Yes.
On Saturday, 5th April at 5 p.m, Auckland FC will take on Western Sydney Wanderers at Go Media Stadium. It's an afternoon of football like you've never seen before, plus exclusive performances and activities for the whole family. Watch Auckland FC play Western Sydney Wanderers on a great day. Auckland FC versus Western Sydney Wanderers, Saturday, 5th April, 5 p.m. Grab your tickets now at aucklandfc.co.nz.
Hi, Stephen here from Ian Hunt Flooring. Homeowners love the look and durability of our best-selling Jacobson textured loop pile carpet. And right now, it's on sale. Only at Ian Hunt Flooring, Albany and Mount Wellington.
Ian Hunt Flooring.
Turn your garden into a private oasis and make a statement with Stone and Water World. Their traditional Italian-style sculptures add magic to any garden. Visit in-store or see the whole range online at stoneworld.co.nz.
The Leader of the Opposition on Kerre Woodham Mornings with Pinnacle Life's multi-award-winning life insurance online advice tool. Call 0800 80 10 80. Newstalk ZB.
Newstalk ZB indeed. Matt, you have a question about rentals. Good morning to you.
Yeah, g'day. I just wanted to know if you were to get in again, would you go back to your old taxation policies of taxing people with rentals that aren't actually making income out of it? For instance, I've got a rental where I'm 100% lending on it, and yet under your policy, you would have taxed me on the income, even though all the income went to the bank. And I was actually not making any money at all.
Yeah, so we haven't set out our policy on interest deductibility, which I think is the issue that you're asking specifically about. We haven't set out our policy on that, and I think that will depend a lot on where we get to on other aspects of tax policy, because those things do link up. So we're working through that now. I'm not dodging your question. It's a totally fair and legitimate question for you to want the answer to. I just don't have the answer yet. But we'll try and set that out this year so that people have got a year to question us on it before the election.
Yeah, because I'm an example where my rental's actually the tenant's a beneficiary, and if you were to get in and you bought that back, I'd sell it, and then you'd have a beneficiary looking for a house.
Yeah, and look, we know we've got issues around making sure we've got enough affordable rentals for those who need them. So that is certainly one of the things that we're looking at as we work through the tax policy. We don't want to disincentivise landlords from building new rental houses. In fact, we want to encourage more of that. So we're working through all of that at the moment.
But what I don't understand is why would you tax someone that's actually not making money? All that money is going to the bank. I don't make a cent off it. I actually have to top it up.
Well, it's not so much taxing. It's the interest deductibility is reducing your tax in other areas rather than necessarily the tax on the rental property. So
no, under the way you guys had it set up, I would have been paying tax on the income coming from it, but it wasn't income because it went to the bank because I was 100% lending on it.
Right. Yeah.
So the interest was higher and I had to do repayments as well. So it not only cost me $200 a week, I also would have had to pay tax on the rental income but it wasn't income, if you know what I mean. It was going to the bank.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And as I said, those are the sorts of things we're working through at the moment as we figure out the tax policy for the next election. We do, I do think that we need to have a change in the way our tax system operates. We tax salary and wage earners disproportionately compared to other countries that we compare ourselves to. But I'm not going to say that we got everything right last time we were in government and we go back to doing exactly what we were doing last time, because I don't think we got it all right. And so, we'll have a different tax policy over the next year that people will see before the election.
Thank you very much, Matt. Newstalk ZB 10:30.
Newstalk ZB Auckland. Time saver traffic.
Treat yourself at Gin Indulgence, New Zealand's Gin Festival. Now to Karaka Walters Road near Linwood Road. We are getting reports of a crash there. Another crash in Hillcrest and Northcote Road near Sunnybray. If you can update us, 0800 jammed. The Southern Motorway slow coming in from Mount Wellington. Gin Indulgence Gin Festival, May the 2nd and 3rd at Shed 10 in association with Fever Tree.
Get your business in the game, or on the scoreboard, or in a corporate box. Partner with Eden Park, New Zealand's national stadium. Reach passionate fans, global audiences, and top decision makers with unrivaled exposure and exclusive hospitality experiences. Whether it's major sporting moments, world-class entertainment, or grassroots community impact, Eden Park puts your business at the heart of the action through customised partnerships designed to deliver. Contact Eden Park today and be part of something unforgettable.
Hi, Heather Kensley, Investment Manager at Southern Cross Partners Loans and Investments. Talk to us for interest rates from 7% per annum. Our self-service portal offers full transparency. Be involved and watch your investments grow. Funds are secured by First Mortgage over New Zealand property with strong equity. Visit southerncrosspartners.co.nz. Kiwis helping Kiwis for over 25 years.
Southern Cross Partners Limited is licensed to provide peer-to-peer lending services under the Financial Markets Conduct Act 2013. You Do It Do Kitchens, and we've been doing it for almost 50 years.
A new kitchen is the smartest way to boost your home's value.
And the smartest way to do it is with You Do It.
You do the design, then You Do It created. The result?
A quality New Zealand-made kitchen and huge cost savings.
With online expert support, You Do It is DIY made easy. Search You Do It, UDUIT. Our customers are proud to say,
I did it myself.
Hi, Stephen here from Ian Hunt Flooring. Homeowners love the look and durability of our best-selling Jacobson textured loop pile carpet. And right now, it's on sale. Only at Ian Hunt Flooring, Albany and Mount Wellington.
Ian Hunt Flooring.
The Nick Scarley Easter clearance is on now with up to 40% off a huge range of designer furniture. Save up to 40% at the Easter clearance. On now at Nick Scarley, Waido Park, Mount Wellington and St Luke's.
Newstalk ZB headlines.
With Blue Bubble taxis, it's no trouble with a Blue Bubble. Donald Trump's announced tariffs of at least 10% on almost all goods entering the US, including imports from New Zealand. His administration claims New Zealand is charging twice that in tariffs on US goods, and other countries are charging even more.
The tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that.
In New Zealand, the Treasury has unveiled the Crown's financial statements in the 8 months ending February. We have a deficit of $6.6 billion, but that's about $1.4 billion lower than expectations, with higher tax revenue than forecast and lower government expenses. Cabinet's move to implement fast-track medicine approvals, letting drugs get the green light in New Zealand in less than 30 days, if already approved in 2 specified overseas jurisdictions. Motorists are being warned to watch for slippery summer ice as heavy rain starts to pelt parts of the Upper South Island and Westland that could continue for more than a day. Who would hire me? Why the upending of business models has come at a bad time for Generation X. Read more at NZ Herald Premium. Back to Kerre Woodham.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. Leader of the Opposition, Leader of Labour Chris Hipkins in the studio. Quickie for you. Question for Chris Hipkins. Are you going to bring back gang patches?
No. And, I think it's one of those things where it hasn't ultimately, changed the nature of gang activity. Gang business is still booming. They're still selling more methamphetamine than ever. But what it has done is people feel a bit safer with not seeing patched gang members walking down the street. So, no, absolutely not.
I think it's just the posturing that got me.
That's right. And, gangs are still booming. They're still doing great business. But if people feel more comfortable not seeing gang patches on the street, fair enough.
What does Labour have planned in terms of reforming the grocery sector? Because you started it off when you were in government. A lot of talk from Marina Williams on social media about what the current government aren't doing. What will Labour do to get this under control, and why wasn't enough done last term? It's from Tua and Jamie.
It's a big decision to go in and break up a duopoly, break up private businesses effectively. But what I've said to the current government, to Nicola Willis, the National Party, is if you're interested in doing this, the best thing to do would be to have Labour and National agree on a path of action so that there's certainty, so that it doesn't matter who the government is. The New Zealand government has, under either Labour or National, has taken a position that this is what we need to do to get competition into the grocery sector. So I've said to her that we will be very pragmatic about this, but if she wants to do something bold, come and talk to us, because I think a bold action like that, because it would be a pretty big thing, it would be pretty bold to break up the companies. If they want to do something like that and they want to get some, a super majority in Parliament to do it, come and talk to us, because we're open to giving them the numbers to have a super majority for that.
Mohammed, good morning to you.
Good morning, Kerry. How are you?
Good. You're talking to Chris Hipkins. Do you have a question?
Hi, Chris. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Hi, Chris. I'm calling from Wanganui. My name is Mohammed, and I have a few questions for you. But the first one is regarding the Nelson Hospital. What's going on there? What difference would the Labour Party would have done to resolve this issue?
Yeah, I think one of the big issues that's facing Nelson Hospital, like a lot of hospitals around the country, is that they've just got a shortage of staff. So the current, there's been a recruitment freeze, although the government, the government deny there is a recruitment freeze, but they basically said stop hiring people. And that's really affected a lot of those frontline hospital services. We actually just need more medical professionals in our hospitals. In the case of Nelson Hospital, I think we need to go further than that. Nelson Hospital actually needs a complete rebuild. It's a very rundown hospital, and Nelson's really growing. It's just not big enough for the population of Nelson. So I think there's two things in Nelson. They need a new hospital, and they need to be able to recruit the staff that they need to deliver those frontline health services.
Okay, totally agree with you on that one, Chris. Okay, on the other hand, like you said, we need more trained staff, more experienced staff in the front line. So in Wanganui, there is some issues going on here that people, the senior staff, senior members of the human resource and the other staff members who are quite senior, they are doing the opposite. They are trying to get rid of staff who are experienced, who are 14, 15 years experience, and they are saying that they are incompetent. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think one of the risks in health at the moment is you get a lot of discussion about frontline versus back office. And actually, health is a really good example of your frontline doctors and nurses need good back office staff if they're going to deliver good care for patients. I'd rather them being out and about on the wards and so on, dealing with patients, than sitting at a desk filing paperwork and all of that sort of thing. So, good administrative support in hospitals is really important. And I do worry that those are a lot of the jobs that are being cut at the moment, and that patient care will actually be compromised as a result of that.
Anna says, could you ask Chris Hipkins why complaints about issues at Nelson Hospital were raised in 2018, according to the TV1 report last night, but were ignored by the government?
I haven't had a chance to go back and look at the exact nature of the complaint.
Because you were Minister of Health for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, for 6 months in 2020. But I don't know. I don't have the details of those. I'm certain they wouldn't have been ignored, but clearly these problems, in fairness to the current government, clearly these problems haven't just appeared immediately. They've gotten worse. They've gotten to crisis point. But I think what we're finding across the health system is a lot of these problems have been building up for quite a long time.
They have.
Yeah. But I'm not talking 6 years. I'm talking decades.
Yeah,
these problems have been building for a long time.
And why was a line not drawn in the sand when you were government?
Well, there was. That's one of the reasons we did the restructuring of the health system, because it just isn't sustainable in the form that it was before.
Sure, but it was at a time post-COVID where they'd been absolutely battered.
They had, but also we need to do things differently. So if we want to have an equal standard of healthcare wherever you're living in the country, the previous model of 20 DHBs doing different things wasn't going to deliver that. And I think we've also got to get real. We're only a country of 5 million people. Every hospital can't provide every specialist service.
No.
So you need our hospitals to operate as one network of hospitals. And if that means you need to move around the country to get the best specialist care that you need for whatever the health condition you have is, we have to be realistic that that's probably what's going to have to happen. And so having one, really high quality health system is way better for the country than having 20 that are struggling to do what they need to do.
When will you release policy? Because right now it works for you just not being the government. And that happens with opposition parties. Just not being the government is enough to get votes. But you're going to have to put your money where your mouth is eventually.
Yeah, we've started to release sort of in a high level, modest sense, some early indications of policy. In my State of the Nation speech, I said jobs, health and homes are going to be the three focal points for us in terms of the policy that we are talking about. We've released some small policy in indicating areas where we will do things differently to the current government. But I also don't want to just start releasing policy that says, well, we're just going to reverse everything that they have been doing because that's what they did when we were in government and look where that's led us. I think that kind of backwards flip-flopping is just not going to lead the country forward. So there are limits to how much policy you can do if you're future-focused, with a year and a half still to run before the election. We've still got two government budgets to go through, and a lot can change in that time. And what I don't want to do is release something that says, look, Labour's going to do this, only to find when we get into the election campaign, we can't do the thing that we said we were going to do because maybe the country can't afford it, or maybe the issue's gone away and been replaced by a bigger issue. So it is difficult, but you'll see more policy from us this year. We're not just going to leave it all to the election campaign.
Ray, good morning to you. You have a question on policies.
Good morning, Kerre. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
So my question is why and what has changed? I feel that you have burned a lot of the policies which you were part of creating, specifically unemployment insurance, co-governance. You're bringing back the capital gains tax discussion. Why? Why has this changed? You had a different stance on this when you were in government with the Jacinda Ardern-led government. Why has things changed?
Well, I think two things. One is I'm not Jacinda Ardern, so I'm a different leader with different priorities. But the second is we lost. And, I think when you lose, you have to recognise that means that people didn't want what you were offering. And so, our values as a party haven't changed, but we have to accept that the policies that we were pursuing weren't attracting the support of the majority of New Zealanders.
What was your biggest learning from that time in government?
There were quite a few. I'd say we were trying to do too many different things all at once, and I think we didn't have enough sense of priority. So we were doing a lot of things not well enough because we were trying to do too much at the same time. So I think that was probably one of the big lessons. The other is, watching this government, we have to reflect on this. We're probably over-consulted, I think, sometimes. We spend a lot of time consulting and asking people what they thought about things when sometimes actually the people just want government to get on with it. So I think those were two clear lessons that we've taken from our last 6 years in government.
Thank you, Ray. Newstalk ZB, it is 16 to 11.
New Zealand loves a comeback. And at AMI, we've seen this country come back for nearly 100 years. And we've learned that it's not what stands in front of you, but who stands beside you. Visit us today. AMI, on your side.
Bunnings has great value nailed across the store.
You can grab a Click Ceramic 1700 watt fan heater for just $29. Will you find a competitor's lower price on the same stocked item, we'll beat it by 15%. Conditions apply. See website for details.
Bunnings Warehouse.
Discover Lakeside, a stunning new neighbourhood in Te Kaupara. Perfectly positioned halfway between Auckland and Hamilton. Own a brand new standalone 3-bedroom home with your own backyard for just $619,000. Come along to the Lakeside Information Day this Saturday 11 till 2 at the Lakeside Village Centre, 187 Rimu Street, Te Kaupara. Tour show homes, meet build partners, enjoy food trucks, market stalls, free coffee, live music and fun activities for the kids. See you there.
Looking for an iconic venue that makes events memorable? Eden Park, New Zealand's national stadium, offers unique spaces for every occasion, from intimate meetings to grand galas for 1,000 plus guests. With in-house catering, world-class AV, free parking and Wi-Fi, all minutes from the city centre, hosting is effortless. Walk the Players' Tunnel, witness a haka on field, or enjoy drinks in the legendary home changing room. Contact Eden Park today and host where legends are made.
Are you looking to rediscover that spring in your step? True Niagen is a cutting-edge NAD supplement backed by Nobel Prize-winning scientists and decades of research. Supporting NAD levels with True Niagen supports energy levels, focus and wellness as you age. Powered by Niagen NR, True Niagen is the world's most studied, trusted and efficient NAD supplement. Visit trueniagen.co.nz to get started today. Always read the label, use as directed. Supplementary to a balanced diet. Matakana Health, Auckland.
Designwarehouse.co.nz.
Design Warehouse relocation sale on now with up to 30% off outdoor tables, chairs, daybeds and sun lounges, up to 30% off outdoor sofas and cantilever umbrellas. All orders over $1,500 delivered free. T's and C's apply. Relocation sale on now. Visit designwarehouse.co.nz.
Designwarehouse.co.nz.
Chris Hipkins taking your calls on 0800 80 1080 on Kerre Woodham Mornings with Pinnacle Life. Get a life insurance quote in just 30 seconds. Newstalk ZB.
Newstalk ZB. Carbon credits. Question on that, Oliver.
Yeah, hi Kerre and hi Chris. My question is, with the carbon credits scheme at the moment, we're obviously currently planting pine trees. Which is quite a short-term solution, because in order to sequester carbon long-term, you need to have a forest which doesn't all die at once, because trees are actually able to transfer carbon from them to another tree near them when they die. So they're actually kind of the long-term solution. But at the moment, we're currently obviously planting pines, which have a short lifespan and all die at the same time. So it's obvious, in the long run, it's not going to actually benefit the sequestration of carbon. And on top of that, whilst we're planting pines to sequester carbon, on the other side of it, we're spending huge amounts of money trying to get rid of wilding pines. So we're kind of arm wrestling ourselves in a way. So I was just wondering if you, as a government, would look at making the carbon credit scheme required to be planting natives in a forest which would last longer.
Yeah, you've raised a bunch of really important issues, and I'll try and keep it as simple as I can. I don't think we can plant our way out of our climate change obligations. There simply wouldn't be enough pine trees. We couldn't plant enough pine trees to do that. So we actually have to reduce our emissions, and I don't think the emissions trading scheme is working as it was intended in encouraging sheep and beef farmers to convert their paddocks into pine tree plantations. I don't think that's in the country's best long-term interests. So I think we do need to do something different. We need to encourage more native forest planting, but also we shouldn't be turning productive farmland all into forestry plantation.
But if there are too many rules and regulations for farmers to feel they can make a go of it, what else are they're going to sell up?
It's not so much about the rules and regulations, it's just the economics of it at the moment. The way the ETS works, it's incentivising them to do that. And I think we do need to change that because we still need our farms. And it's another example of where I worry a bit about where some of the RMA reform is going, because the government saying property rights are first and foremost going to be at the centre, and if you own the land, you can do whatever you want with it. I'm not sure that within reason, there are
caveats on that.
But I'm not sure we want all of our sheep and beef farmers saying, well, my private property rights, my private property, I can turn it into forestry if I want to. I don't think that we want to say that that's what they should be able to do. I think there's got to be limits to that. And so I think these are the sorts of things that we're going to have to work through, but I don't think it's in the country's long-term interest to turn all our sheep and beef farms into pine plantations.
Yeah, without the farmers, we'd have been in deep stock over the last few years, that's for sure.
But also, farming, sheep and beef farms, dairy farms, orchards, they create much more work than pine trees do.
Yes.
You plant a pine tree, there's next to no work associated with that for the next 20 years until you actually come to mill it. And then if all you're doing is chopping it down and exporting the raw log, there's not a lot of employment in that area. So we do have to think about the fact that we still want people to have jobs in the primary sector.
Hi, Kerre. Chris. I'm enjoying the change in rhetoric from Chris. However, I'm nervous that if you get back into power, you'll go back to the mire left extreme that we saw under your previous time in government. What assurance can you give us you'll return to left of centre and once again respect our money as previous Labour governments have done?
What I tried to do when I took over from Jacinda was, get back to the basics of what Labour stands for, and it's what I set out in my State of the Nation speech. So jobs, health, homes, really important kind of core territory for Labour, and that's what I want to see us focused on. Things like the environment feed through all of that. But those are the areas where I do want to see Labour really coming up with some new ideas, which is what we're working on at the moment. But also, Kerre and you were just talking about this in the break. We weren't as well prepared for being in government in 2017 as we needed to be.
Do you have that? Just rips my nightie every time I think about that, because you had 9 years and taxpayers were paying the salary of the opposition MPs, and you weren't ready.
And some were more prepared than others. But and I think I was more prepared than some of the others. But I'm determined as a leader of the party that next time around our MPs will all be ready. We're doing a lot of professional development with our team. Getting external people in to work on professional development with the team. Spending a lot of time working on. One of the reasons you're not hearing us talking about policy now is because I don't want to go out there with some harebrained policy ideas that turn around in 18 months' time and just fall over because they weren't properly thought through. I want to know.
And cost millions of taxpayers.
And cost more than expected and all of that stuff. I want to know when we announce a policy, we've worked through the detail of it, we know that it's going to work, we know how much it's going to cost, and also we know that we can actually deliver it. Because I think this government, to some extent, are as bad as our government was in promising things which they haven't been able to deliver. And I think we've got to restore faith in democratic government by promising stuff that we can actually deliver on.
Newstalk ZB, it is 9 to 11.
Discover the best of touring with Trafalgar and Insight Vacations. Hello World Travel has exclusive offers on 2025 UK and European tours, including a 12-day European Whirl London to Paris Trafalgar tour from $6,252 per person, which includes an exclusive saving of more than $2,000 per couple. Talk to your local Hello World Travel professional today to secure your dates for a European tour adventure. T's and C's apply.
Hop into the Easter spirits with a super multi-deal. That's 2 for $95 on Katisa, Karuba, Beefeater and Finlandia 1 litres, or the 700ml Fireball, Sheepdog and Foxhole flavoured whiskies. Mix and match Steinlager Ultra Low Carb, Sol or Heineken Silver 12 packs. 2 for 45. And Jim Beam White and Cola or Canadian Club 10-pack cans, 2 for 50. T's and C's apply. Just go easy on the buns.
Cheers to that.
Super Liquor. Cheers to that.
This is your business. This is your business supercharged with the help of zero counting software. These are your numbers. These are your numbers sorted with the help of zero counting software. This is you.
Hi.
This is you taking business where you want with the help of zero counting software.
Hello, world.
This is your business supercharged with the help of zero and having your numbers sorted all at the same time so you can finally focus on taking business where you want to. Supercharge your business today with the help of zero.
Search zero with an X.
The summer of international cricket is back, and Newstalk ZB is keeping you up to date with all the action and big news stories thanks to Resine Colour Shops. Keep it loud for match updates and news across the day as New Zealand takes on rivals from around the globe. Newstalk ZB's international cricket coverage with Resine, New Zealand's most trusted paint year after year.
Cyber threats are everywhere. Are you ready? 1HQ, proudly Kiwi-owned, has been protecting businesses for nearly 20 years. If your IT security needs an upgrade, visit 1HQ.nz today. 1HQ, your trusted Kiwi cybersecurity experts.
This week at Fruit World, sweet and juicy gold kiwi fruit, only $3.99 per 800 gram bag. That's right, gold kiwi fruit, $3.99 per 800 gram bag.
Fresh makes the world go round.
It's me, turn on the microphone. Newstalk ZB. Gosh, that went quickly. A lot of questions, texts around the idea of a grand coalition. National and Labour seem to be the parties that represent where New Zealanders want to be. The minor parties are getting more extreme. The Māori Party of today is not the Māori Party of yesterday. ACT's always been fairly, to the right of Attila Vahan. But can you ever foresee a grand coalition? You've got more in common than you haven't.
They've just done one in Germany, but I think the risk of that is, as we've seen in Germany, is it just allows the extremes to grow. So the extremes actually get stronger when there isn't competition in the sort of the centre, if you like. So I think it's important that Labour and National continue to provide an alternative view of things. But what I've tried to do in the last couple of months, because I recognise that I think people want to see some sensible, moderate politics, as I've tried to say to the government, look, in areas where we are close, let's talk, and by the government, I actually mean the National Party, do talk to us. So areas like supermarket competition, I just mentioned that before. On RMA reform, I just don't think that we can have this constant ping pong where each government comes in and repeals the changes done by the previous one. And so I've said to them, look, we will set out, you come and talk to us, and we will set out where we disagree and where we agree, and let's try and find something that will be a bit more enduring. I'm not saying that we won't say that we're going to amend things when we're in government, but at least if we can be clear on that, everyone will have a bit more certainty.
And like the infrastructure plan, having an agreement about the 10 main things, and then you've got a little bit of a kitty where you can do pet projects. I think parties can do pet projects. The thing on infrastructure is we've got to think the longer term. Changing short-term priorities is what kills the economy, because all of the businesses just run out of work very quickly. Changing long-term priorities, fine, but let's not change the short-term ones. So what I said is, if this government commit to a short-term project that's already underway, we're not going to stop it just because we would have chosen something different, because it'll put people out of work. I think the other point that's on the MMP politics grand coalition conversation, though, is I think people are a bit fed up of the tail wagging the dog stuff with MMP they really
now.
Are. Would you say no to forming a government if it depended on Te Pāti Māori? Because all the numbers of you forming a government in the polls at the moment have you needing Te Pāti Māori. Would you walk away?
Oh, I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't. We do have to be responsible. I don't think you should collapse, the Parliament and go through a constant cycle of elections. But I think you've got to have bottom lines. You've got to have things that you can say, look, we're just not going to do that.
Chris Hipkins, Leader of the Opposition, Leader of Labour, leaving with Golden Horse and maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow.
We'll see.
Maybe 18 months from now, Kerre.
Maybe.
When's our Pepe due again?
Our Pepe? You're jumping the gun a bit, eh?
Hey, who's going to be right there at the drop of a hat when you need a babysitter and a feed and someone to talk to and someone
geez.
And speaking of jumping the gun, grab my keys. We need to get our flu vaccinations. Me haere taua.
Flu vaccinations are available from early April and free